Well, I didn't really want this to be my face reveal, but here we are. Hello, my name's Tal, I run the Tallyball YouTube channel, and if you've heard of the news, then I'm sure you're feeling the same way that I am, and if you haven't heard it, then you're about to. You might remember a Google document that was released not too long ago about Joe Hawley. It accused him of transphobia and racism, but none of it was ever really proved, so nobody really took it seriously. And so now it's kind of just a satirical villain where people call it The Doc. Yeah, well now we have a second The Doc 2. It was released yesterday morning, and it's worse, and it has proof, so it's not looking good. I'm not going to go into loads of detail about what Joe Hawley has actually said. I recommend you to read the documents. It will be in the pinned comments, but otherwise strap yourselves in. I'm sure you can see in my glasses that I've got notes up on the screen. So if I look over there, that's why. I'm not used to making this kind of video. Right, first of all, the accusations. Joe Hawley has been accused of transphobia, using racist and homophobic slurs, and being overly sexual to very young fans. And by very young, I mean much younger than him, 17, so technically underage. Also, I'm saying technically because I'm from the UK, so the legal age here is 16. So to me, 17 being underage is a bit weird. But either way, they were much younger than Joe Hawley. So let's first go through the general story as I understand it, and very summarized. Like I said, if you want to know the full thing, read the documents. But it started when a fan messaged Joe Hawley. I think they had some fan art or something. The fan was underage, and I think Joe knew this. Maybe not from the start, but he definitely knew it. And they just messaged a bit. Apparently at first, there was nothing weird being said or even insinuated. It was just them having conversations. Joe was apparently a bit of an asshole, but also nice. Nothing out of the ordinary. The two messaged for a couple of years, and I think briefly met up a couple times in person. Although I think it was mainly at events and just to say hi, nothing crazy, nothing creepy. And it was also mostly initiated by the fan, not by Joe Hawley. Now, it's worth noting that Joe had mentioned that he probably shouldn't have been messaging and asked her to stop contacting him. And her justification for why she didn't was because she saw him as an idol. Make of that what you will. Now, the first thing that this document points out is that Joe was venting to this underage fan about his ex-girlfriend, which is a little bit weird because the age difference is massive. And like I said, she's only messaging him at this point because she wants to be liked by him. She wants to be his friend. So I'm not sure how much of an actual real criticism this is. I understand that the age difference is definitely weird, but if I had known someone for 2 years, even just online, I would probably be telling them more personal things about myself. I don't think that's really that weird. And it's not the main serious thing anyways. The main serious things happen on a phone call. And from what I've seen, Joe was definitely not in a good mental state. He was either drunk or just mentally unstable. But on this phone call, Joe allegedly said multiple slurs and made some very sexual comments about this underage fan. Well, both of the fans, really. I can't go into detail on this YouTube video. Look at the screenshots. It's not very nice. And then it was on this phone call and also afterwards that Joe started dead naming the fan and also gave some just awful takes about transgenderism. He was transphobic. And while I'm not here to defend him in any way, he's a grown adult, I am here to give what I think to be a fairly reasonable take on the whole situation. So, here it is. Joe Hawley is mentally unwell. We've known this for a while. He's been known to have used a lot of drugs, mainly psychedelic drugs, and he even mentions alcohol in the phone call where he was asked to address what he'd said. And while none of those things are an excuse for what he said, they are an explanation. I think that on the phone call where most of this happened, Joe just wasn't in the right state of mind. The transphobia, on the other hand, is very different because that's a consistent thing that he's been doing. The fan's name was Eden, and when he was talking to Eden, he was using her name in quotation marks. Then again, he was friends with this person for a couple years and talked and met up. In any case, what he did was wrong, and I can definitely see why it would be hurtful, and that is all irrefutable and undefendable. But as for everything else, like the things he said on the phone call and the slurs that he said, while nothing can really justify that, I don't think he means any harm. I think he just needs help. And as for the people who've had these experiences with Joe, I can understand that it would be difficult to release this document, but I don't think they're entirely in the right either. They continued to keep in contact with Joe not only after they claimed they felt uncomfortable, but after they were asked to. They were ignorant in their own right. They know Joe Hawley better than I ever will, and even I can see that he's not the type of person I want in my DMs, no matter how incredible I think his work is. And I also think it's worth noting that I am 16, I am younger than these fans, and so I hold them to the standard that I would hold myself to. I think they acted immaturely. And I'm not trying to victim blame when I say all of that. I understand that Joe is absolutely in the wrong. I'm just trying to give both sides of the argument. Because online I've seen so many extremes in both ways. From people saying that the fans are overreacting to saying they're gonna hang themselves. Neither of which I see as valid responses to what's happened. I've also seen loads of posts on Reddit of people taking images of Tally Hall and removing Joe Hawley. And I think that's awful and immature and just shitty. And I expected more from the fan base. I did. At the end of the day though, I'm gonna continue to enjoy Joe's work, and I encourage you to as well. But if you don't want to support him anymore, then that's completely understandable, and I think that's completely alright. And whichever stance you take, I ask you to respect the other stance as well. And most importantly, please leave Joe alone. Being bombarded by a bunch of people asking him to address the allegations is the last thing he needs. He needs to recover, he needs time away from the internet, and I think he needs a therapist. Whether you want to criticize him or support him, it's just not worth sending him a message. And he's also been blocking a lot of people who have been bringing it up, so just don't bother. Leave it to his friends, because they're going to have much more impact than a bunch of teenagers. And finally, I do want to acknowledge that I am a straight white guy in this situation, but I do acknowledge that what Joe has done is very hurtful. And I can absolutely see why putting someone's names in quotation marks is a really shit thing to do. It's honestly left me with a really bad taste in my mouth, as it has with everybody else. I've been a really big fan of Tally Hall, Miracle Musical, Joe Hawley, as I'm sure you have for many years, and I'm really young, so it's probably been a bigger percentage of my life than it has been yours. And as for my content, I'm going to keep uploading the same things that I have been because it's a bit of fun. I like looking back at the memories that Tally Hall have created, and that's not a bad thing. If you don't want to have to think about or see Joe anymore, I recommend you unsubscribe, but we're at the end of the video now, so thanks for staying this long, and I really hope that you can still enjoy Joe's work and focus on the art instead of the artist. So yeah, I'm not used to making this kind of video, so I hope it wasn't too awkward. If you want to discuss different points of view in the comment section, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to delete any of them. I want to have conversations and I want to hear about what you have to say. Just keep it civil, alright? Keep it civil and it'll all be good. If you make a comment that's just obviously too extreme, then I will delete it. I mean, I've seen people telling Joe Hawley to kill himself. That's just not alright. I trust we'll get through this and I trust that it'll be alright. So, see ya.